Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. Working on episode number 11 here on the Voron 2.4 build. Last week, or last video, I should say, we went ahead and built the clockwork mechanism, basically the feed for filament into the hot end for the Voron, and gives you a really nice snap. It is unlatched, latched up, works really well. If you didn't see that video, take a look back. If you have any questions on that, I went ahead and did this, and I kind of used a two manual method, basically relying on an old version of the Voron build manual as well as the current newer version of the manual, just because some of the steps were either missing or didn't make as much sense. So kind of meshing them both up, and I'm going to be doing that again today as we continue on. So today we're actually going to be working on the clockwork mounting to the fan shrouds and everything else that goes along with that. Now, that being said, this actually, in the most current manual, which I believe is the May manual, goes directly from putting the wire guard on our clockwork to mounting things to the fan shroud and the cooling fans. But there's absolutely nothing about building these other than showing us to put a couple of M3 screws through it to attach it together. So bring your attention back here to the old manual, and it left off right where that did, and then actually talks about cooling fans and putting this together. Page completely obliterated from the current manual. So we're going to work off the old manual here for a second as we put together these parts. So first things first, they want you to separate the blower housing. This is a squirrel fan. There are other names for it, but I call it a squirrel fan. Basically, it's a cage blower fan. And in the FORMBOT kit, they indeed gave us a Sun-on cage blower fan, and we will need to separate it. So best way to separate one of these is to find an area that is not going to be impacted if we slide slightly far. Get yourself a razor blade or something else. Be very careful. I prefer the ones with the points on them when I'm doing something like this. You can use a regular scraping razor blade, but sometimes a point comes in handy, and pardon my face being in there, but you want to get in there and kind of work your way around and pry it up. Easy as that. So now that is decaged, unhoused, however you want to say it. So we have that, and now we are going to be looking for the parts to put those in. So we will need, this is going to be the top section. This is going to fit something like that in there, according to the old manual. This will also be held together utilizing a thin piece of ABS filament. So we have that, and now we also need this lower part right here. So that I'm going to have to dig for just a little bit. I think I got it. I believe that's that guy right there. So very similar in shape to that, unless they're actually talking about that. Let me see. Nope, it's definitely not that. Definitely not that. It is definitely that piece. So our blower fan is going to go inside of the shroud, and the way they're showing it, of course without any type of wiring, is like this. There is a small cutout here, small indent in the print. I shouldn't call it cutout. So small missing section here on the sidewall, making it about half thickness, allowing for the wire to come up. Very thoughtful. When you're pushing this in, you don't want to push on the actual cage. Try to push on the extremities of the fan. This is relatively weak. It's a fan, so don't want too much pressure on that. So that is where we're at with that. So that is this section right here. Next section is this part right here, which is the top hinged section. That would be this guy right here. And what they're showing us is putting in the fan on that one. And again, they're not really showing us exactly what direction they want that in. But if we look closely, we can see right here where this cutout is. If you look where the mouse cursor is, and that is where the wiring is going to be coming off of the actual drive motor on this fan. So that will be aligned with the top right hand side of this part. So it's actually like that if I do it by the logo, but I'm not looking at the logo, I'm looking at it that way, and it should snap into place, assuming, yep, like that. And that wiring goes up. So we have that, we have that. And next step is the actual attachment of the top and bottom pieces using a piece of 1.75 millimeter filament. So let's go ahead and get that done. So when they say that, they're talking about this particular part we just put the fan in, and this top section right here, which will fit something like something like this. And we want to make sure that we're pretty clean. There's a little hole here and a little hole there to put our filament through. Filament tends to come out a little bit crooked, so I'm going to try to straighten it out a little bit before I put it through, just to minimize my frustrations of it not going through. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that fed through. There we go. Just like that. Nice. Okay, we built a hinge. So they don't say anything about trim that off, but obviously we don't want to leave that sticking out. And they also don't say anything about doing anything to make sure that that stays where it is. So I'm going to go ahead, heat up that soldering iron to about 200 or so degrees Celsius. And I'm just going to give it a quick tap on either end just to kind of make a bulge. Push it through that way a little bit. And I'll hold my finger behind it here. And then basically just hold it against that filament. Just enough to bulge it out at the end. So you can see that. Go big on that. So what I've done is I've bulged out the end of this using the tip of the soldering iron, and this is my soldering iron I use for putting in my heat certs, so it's got a trimmed off end, so it's kind of blunt. And then I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. Like that. Let that cool off a little bit. And I'm going to hit this other side a little bit more to get a little bit more of a mushroom out of it. There. Obviously we can still remove that if we had to. We can just go in and snip off the end of it on either side and then push it through. But that will stop it from coming out on its own. Alright, so that is the old manual, and that continues on to this section here, which let me see, is the same. as the new manual. So we'll continue on with the new manual now. So new manual is calling for some M3x16s and some M3x30s. So M3x16s, actually M3x30s first, because I found those first. So it looks like we're going to need, let's see, to complete this, looks like 3 of them. 2 going in the front, 1 going in the back. And M3x16, we're going to need a couple of those. But I'm only finding 1 left in the kit. So I'll have to locate another one. Interesting. I guess they attempt to give you just the right amount, no more, no less, or no more at least. Let me see what I got back here. I believe we'll have to dig into spare parts. So just a big bin of extra screws. Amazon. Suggest you get one of these. Looks like I got digged on a single screw, which could definitely screw me up. And then I need an M3x20 for my last screw on this. So an M3x20. One of those. And let's just grab our M3x16. M3x16. I probably should get myself one of those little wall shelvy things to put all my screws into. But I don't just build printers and I have so much stuff. It's kind of hard to give a space just to one type of thing. Alright, so just give you another quick look at that. So what we're going to do is be putting in our M3x30s into the front of the accent piece, and then we're going to be doing the back piece, it looks like. Oh, I see how they did that. Okay, so thing to note here, I guess with the squirrel fan that's in, it actually fills in these voids. They were probably too thin to have on the printed part. They were probably a single wall or thinner, and they exclude them because you didn't need them. So there'll be some cuts in there, some grooves. So this is going to made up like so. But what I don't know is what their expectation is on where that wire is going to come out. It seems kind of odd. It seems kind of odd for it to just die off where it is. But there's a notch on the back side right here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Looks like I'm going to pop this back out. And we're going to unwind this like so, and then run the wire back down through. Wire out the back. And get that back in like so. Where that notch is. And then that is going to mate up with the front. And let's give it a little bit of a twist and turn. Now what I didn't see, okay, so those are going all the way through. both pieces like so, and I'm guessing coming out the back side of that for mounting, mounting the whole thing. Okay, on this back side they want us to use the M3x16s, these guys right here. And again, I didn't see anything on either manual on, well, this one does absolutely nothing, but on this one I don't see any heat inserts being used or anything like that. Okay, well, let's go back to new manual here. We'll go ahead and get those 2 screws in. I guess they're going strictly into the plastic. And we'll do those by finger. Okay, yeah, those holes feel a little bit snug. Probably just enough to hold that together. Definitely don't want to over tighten those. Nice fit and finish on that. Yeah. So we have that, we have that, we have the front, so we have our bottom hot end fan, and then the squirrel fan or the blower fan that is ducted down towards the actual extrusion. All right. So now they're showing, getting back to the actual rail, the drive mechanism on that. So I've actually pulled mine off for purposes of doing this. I don't think, if you are doing a build right now, if you're either following along or doing one from 3 years from now or something like that, probably don't want to mate this up with this until you actually have it on the machine, but easier to do it on the bench real quick in front with all the cameras so everybody can see it. So I'm assuming that this needs to be on the machine to do this because there'll be some screws you won't be able to get to. So that being said, I'm going to take this, I'm going to face it towards us and face this towards that. So they're kind of showing us a rear view. Oh, actually, that's the clockwork. My bad. So they're facing this like this, and this like this, and this is mounting like this. Okay, I see what they want to do. They want us to run our they want us to run our wiring, I'm assuming, based on this portion that comes out. Our wiring for our probe is going to wind up in this same little shroud as everything else, which is actually a good idea. Keep everything together. And then once we have that there, this should supposedly fit in somehow here. Okay. I don't know what their expectation is there. Oh, okay, because it's supposed to be in that. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So basically what we have is our our wiring for our inductive probe is going up in its channel, and then coming out through the top channel that's in there, and then once it's out through there into the shroud, so it's out that way, and then that basically allows us to mate these two portions up directly without any obstruction from the wiring or anything like that. So that works pretty well. Okay, so that's going to be held together with one M3x30 on this side with the shroud. Is that right? I don't really show the shroud in the picture, but and then the M3x20 on the opposite side. And the reason for that is this one's actually mounting to a heat cert on this, whereas this one's going through that piece and then into the next one, just to make everything a little bit stiffer, kind of locking things together. Put that like that. Not too shabby. There we go. All right. So at this point we have, get rid of some trash here. We have the clockwork right there with the inductive probe and the mount to the hot end / mount to the rail, all in one piece. I'm going to take out my test piece of filament. By the way, without adjusting at all, this works pretty well. I mean, I'm turning the drive stepper in there when I do that, so locks on pretty nicely. All right, so there we go. We got that, and let's look at what we have next. All right, now we are attaching our hot end section to the rest of this. So one thing that wasn't mentioned in any of the steps I saw was the actual Bowden tube, or section of Bowden tube. I'm using Capricorn. The kit came with the cheap stuff. I've in the past had issues with cheap stuff, so I had extra Capricorn. I put Capricorn in it. Should be good. So they show it in there with the E3D clone. Mine's actually with the Dragon hot end that I put in that one. So that's going to be the next step. And let's see if we can figure out, well, obviously, this is going to mate up with the Bowden section going in, like so. And then snapping in place like that. So these screws right here, the reason why they went and manufactured or created the part the way they did on this with these open on the top, so you can slide it up and in for tool changing and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can tighten these up just a little bit so that everything's snug when I slide that in. I want it to kind of snap in without snapping anything. Yeah, that looks good. Oh yeah. So just need to get another little bit out of it. Too tight. All right, let's take a half turn off. Try again. Oh, another note on this, real quick. So on the Bowden tube, I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned this to anybody else ever, but what I like to do is either taking a razor knife of some sort, razor blade. I like to kind of chamfer the inside just by give it a twist. I already did it on this one, but give it a twist on the inside, so you kind of chamfer the inside of that, and it buys you a little protection. The other way you can do it is using your cutters and just inserting them like that, and then you can hit it with I don't know, around 200, 230 degree hot air, and you wind up with a much less of an issue of anything ever catching on that. It's this little note from me. So let's see if we can get this in. All right, so close. Wondering if another half turn, another half turn. There we go. All right. So it's plenty tight. And then that is shown. How's that shown? That is shown being on there, behind there, and then they're not showing it attaching just yet because we're putting that. Okay. Interesting. Okay, show you this real quick. So on our front section, the face of this, if you will, just noticed. So if we go back to our fan cutouts that we have here for the wiring, and we try to hold this at an angle so you can see it. We put the wiring back through, hopefully without pinching or breaking it too much here. What can I use to push that down without? Okay. It's actually a channel through the top section as well. So basically you wind up with a routing of the wiring going straight through there, so it basically has a route path all the way out because you have extra room in the back here as well. So down through there, up through this channel, through here, off here, and then back up to the side. Hopefully that helps somebody out. Save them 30 seconds, right? So back to where we were. So basically at this point we are at the point where this should be mounted. I'm trying to remember what those were for screws. Alright, those 30s or 40s? These are 40s. Okay, so we got 40s that hold this on. Oh, that one's kind of twisted. Like that. Okay. So that's our fan. It's the output of our fan to our hot end. Like that. Okay. And now this is going to be mounted in such a way that all of our wiring is actually going to end up in the same location. I know it's kind of hard to see on the close-up cam, but something like that. Okay. So attachment. Attachment at this point looks like we're utilizing the 2 screws that we already put in to the front face of the accent piece. Which will go into those heat certs. Like so. And then we're also going to be mounting our front fan, and let's see where it talks, if it talks. Yep, some M3x12s on that one. Find some M3x12s. M3x12s. Good and good. And then M3x8, we already did that part. Again, differences between manual 1 and manual 2. They're showing us putting a screw in the shroud portion right here. We already attached the shroud using the old manual. So just a step out of place. All right, so to recap, all our wiring is now coming out of the same location as to where that shroud is. So basically half of our wiring is coming from behind the shroud, the other half of the wire is coming out of a notch on the side here. We have our squirrel fan installed right there or blower fan, squirrel fan, to provide airflow into the duct work to cool off our print. And then we also have our hot end fan right there to keep the top section where the heat break is from getting overly warm. We have our engagement here for our filament, and we have a finished Voron 2.4 head, which, what's the name of this thing again? I forget. Well, hot and install. There's a name for this whole thing. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's a fancy name. Where is it? Come on. Afterburner, right there. That's that bad boy. So, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what I got in my hand. Just different color. Awesome. Great. All right, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a comment down below. If you didn't like this video, leave me a comment down below. Thumbs up are greatly appreciated. If you give me a thumbs down, do me a favor. Just leave me a comment and let me know why you specifically didn't like my video. And I will make changes. If I think it's a relevant criticism to the way I'm doing this, I'm fine with that. And, you know, just help me make it a little bit better for you. Looking for more subscribers, so please do. And next video, we're going to be working on the belting, which I skipped over for a moment. I'm going to get back over to that. I'm going to be installing our afterburner to the actual printer, to the Z gantry, and we'll go from there. So appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, again, comments, leave them for me, and I will answer just about anything I can. And if I can't answer it, I will try to forward you in the right location. Thanks.